Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers in order to increase your profits, in order to live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart. So I just got done recording a AI, Google Gemini, ChatGPT, Midjourney video inside of the Academy. And I was like, you know what? I think this would be really good content to share on the podcast, even though you can't really see the exact things. I feel like I still described it enough to where you pretty much get the idea, right? And this is one of the top questions that I get. And so I'm like, I think everybody needs to hear this. And I have done a bunch of research on which platform is better and why I think this and that and how I use it in my own business. And so, like I said, you won't get the full recordings, but I think you'll still find it really useful. And of course, if you want to see the exact prompts that I'm doing and the exact images, which I think it's worth it, if this episode talks you into using AI a little bit more, which really wasn't the point, but if you're interested in using it a lot, I think it's worth seeing the images that it creates because it is a next level of seeing rather than just explanations. So you can always join our Artist Academy. It is only $37 a month or $2.99 if you join for the full year. Plus you get a one-on-one coaching call with me, and I will help you through whatever hurdle you are trying to get through in your business at this very moment. So here we go. Here is your battle of the AI brands, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Midjourney. Alrighty, let's get started. Welcome to the AI section of the Academy. I am so stoked to show you all the things that I have found out, uncovered, I've just experimented with using AI. I've used Google Gemini, ChatGPT, along with Midjourney, and I've used all three of those, some heavier than others, for the past year, probably. And just today, I sat down and I was like, okay, I've been using Midjourney for this and ChatGPT for that and Google for that, but I'm going to get down and I'm going to really put them to battle. I'm going to say, okay, give them all the same prompts, see what happens, and pick a winner. And the winner is not the winner that I thought it was going to be. Okay, just to tell you straight up, and I'm going to show you all of this, by the way. This is going to be a heavy video. I'm going to also be explaining it for the people who are in the Academy and prefer to just listen. If you want to just glance over at my screen just to see the examples, but I'll explain to you as much as possible. But I have been a heavy Google Gemini girly for the last several months. I'm like, this is amazing. I love Google. It works really well in several things. And when putting everything up against each other, I was like, wait, I'm not deleting my Gemini, but I think I'm going to lean a little bit more back into, drumroll, ChatGPT, and also not deleting Midjourney either. But I'll just show you, and I'm just laughing because I for sure thought I was going to come on here and be like, Google Gemini is amazing. I told you so. And I'm like, oh, it's not the winner. Although I'm going to be pointing out and showing you how each of them are best in a different way. And with a little bit of, I just want to preface this with that all of them are coming out with different updates and tricks and things. And AI is getting so much smarter by the week, by the month, by the year, that this being recorded in March 2026, it might be really different. Actually, it probably is going to be very different in March 2027, but I will then record another update for you as I keep trying things out. That way you don't have to go around trying these things out. I do it for you and to show you the best ways that you're able to do it as an artist. Okay. So, but first, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I use this in general, not necessarily per AI unit, but how I use it in general to make my workflow easier, to make customers happier, faster, and all of that. Because the main thing is AI ethical, right? Everybody's coming out with this thing like, oh, it's going to take over our jobs for stuff. It is never going to take over my job. AI is never going to be able to create a mural. Even I see that people tag me in this video where these printers are printing murals. I am not at all fazed by that, because until a printer can print on a brick uneven wall, which is usually what I'm painting on, like if I'm painting on an indoor wall, a flat one, indoors, like it is a good day. It's a rarity. So I'm not fazed by that. I'm not fazed by AI. I'm like, how can I use this to make my workflow a lot faster? So first off, whenever a customer contacts me and asks me about, hey, I'd like to have a mural on my wall, blah, blah, blah. And I usually will say, okay, just take $500 for a custom mock-up for you, and we can start the creation process there. If they're giving me a little bit of like they're really just not sure what they want, or they really just want to see something, like, those people that are like, I gotta show a committee and I don't know if I can pay that, blah, blah. They can pay it first off, but okay, I'll play the game a little bit, but I will tell them like, hey, my time is valuable and I want to make sure you're serious about this before I put in hours of design time. But let me put some prompts into my AI generator. I'll spit some back out at you. This is the exact same thing as just Googling images, which is what I used to do. I used to get on Google and I would Google flower mural or whatever and show them some different ideas. Instead of doing that and using images from the internet, I'm using AI, and I like it a lot better because I can really specify it. I can create something that is a little bit more unique. Like even though AI gathers images from a ton of different images that people have put into it, and Google, and like art from it, like steals art, you could say, from other artists and designs and things, it still creates a pretty unique thing based on the specifications that I give it. Like I'm not showing my customer a mural that some other artist did. And the thing with that is when I used to go to Google and be like, oh, this flower mural, they're like, oh, we want that one. I'm like, okay, well, I can't do that one exactly. I can create something custom. They're like, okay, this completely eliminates that. I'm not showing them somebody else's art really quick so they can fall in love with it. And usually, always, I will say, hey, well, we got to make it custom to you, and like we'll spin it that way. But this way, it's like I can show them something original, let's call it AI original, and we'll start there. And I always tell them, hey, I'm putting it in AI. This is what we're getting out of it. Like, don't pay attention to the details. There's going to be some extra fingers. Although AI has gotten pretty good about that. There's not a whole lot of extra fingers recently that I'm noticing within the AI tools that I'm using. So it's already getting better, but there are some just weird things. Like I did an image of a roller coaster and the roller coaster just didn't quite make sense. And so the AI images that I gave them, I was like, just ignore that, but you get the overall general idea. And that also helps me figure out what I'm going to charge for this, and giving them a really simple idea versus a really complex one, thanks to AI really quickly. It helps me figure out, okay, this is probably the price you're going to be paying if we stick to an image like this. Pay $500 and we'll start the customization process. And this is what you're going to pay. It just helps speed up the process. It helps generate ideas. And I have, I want to say never. Yeah. Probably never. I have never taken an AI image just like it gives me and painted it just like that. I've always edited it somehow, or changed it on the wall, or I'll take it into Procreate most often and I'll switch things around as I'm going to show you. But it's good for a starting point, but I think it takes us manipulating it and changing it and adding things and putting our own flair on it in order to be a masterpiece. Okay, so just to give you an overall description of what Midjourney, Google Gemini, and ChatGPT are all about really quickly before I show you. Let's start with Midjourney. That's the first one that I had found. So before ChatGPT came out, we had Midjourney, and it created such a buzz. I want to say it was about 2 years ago, maybe more, when that came out. And it was so much fun to buy it. I think it was about $97 at the time. Nowadays, you can have a $10 a month subscription. You get 20% off if you buy the full year. There used to be a free version way, way long ago. I don't believe they have that now. And it's not as easy as ChatGPT or Google Gemini. You have to know a little bit of code words. You have to kind of get a feel of how to use it, which is why we have somebody here in the academy that can help you and show you how to do that once you get into Midjourney. If you want to go inside of our group image creation thing in there, we have that for you. And so you have to kind of play with it. Whereas Google and ChatGPT, you pretty much just put in whatever you want. It can filter through the weird commands, but Midjourney doesn't as much. So you're thinking, okay, why would I do Midjourney then if it's overall kind of just more tough to use? And that's because Midjourney has a much more complex image that it can create for you, and it's not a basic image either. So a lot of the images you get out of ChatGPT and Gemini, they can be kind of basic. They're not all that super imaginative, although you can play with it and give it certain moods and styles. But if you put in just a general prompt in there, you're going to get kind of a general image. Whereas Midjourney, you give it a general prompt, it's going to create something pretty amazing for you, something very detailed, something like I'll put in a prompt that's something like create, and I'll show you how I did this, but magical pastel clouds with a carousel, and the image that it creates is so much better. I'll show you that in just a second, but it's my go-to for creating reference images for my surreal canvas art or canvas art in general, or something that you like. It's kind of like a fever dream. You look and you just get images out of it that are just so cool. That's the majority of what I use it for. You can tell it to do whatever style you want, but I think the images that come out of Midjourney are just next level. That being said, you have to have a little bit of code word with it. You can't just say, make the image bigger. You can't really adjust it in that way. I'll show you. But in general, okay, moving on to the next one, which is Google Gemini. Very, very similar to ChatGPT, which is probably the one that you all know best, right? If you've ever tried anyone, it's probably ChatGPT image creation. And Google Gemini, when you go to create an image in there, it's called Nano Banana Pro. And I had to ask my friend Gareth, who's in the Artist Academy, I was like, why does it say Nano Banana? I don't understand. He goes, oh, that was Google's keyword for creating this image creation software via AI. And that's like what they used to talk about it in email so that it didn't get leaked to people know. Well, it did get leaked, and people found out that Nano Banana Pro was this. And so they're like, okay, well, we're just going to call it that. And so that's why whenever you're in Google Gemini, just fun fact, that's why they call it Nano Banana Pro. and it's their new AI image creation. It's new, and it's in the past few months. They've really revamped it, and I'm pretty impressed with it. So when it comes to image creation, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, very similar. Very, very similar. I would say in some aspects, I like Gemini better. I would say in some aspects, I like ChatGPT better. It just kind of depends on what it is. But oftentimes, you can download both of these for free, by the way. Both for free. Try this out on your own. But I will put the same prompt in Google Gemini as I do in ChatGPT, and just so I get some more options. And even if I'm like, no, I need something more complex, I'll put it into Midjourney. So that's a big way that I'm using all three of these. And I'm not sorry about it. I'm going to continue to do it. But overall, ChatGPT was definitely the winner when it comes to fixing things. So when it created an image for me and I wanted to adjust something, ChatGPT by far listened to me the best. And so sometimes I'll even go in and I'll create an image in Gemini, and then I'll try to have it move something to the left or do this and that. And it just isn't quite there in terms of that. And so I'll put that image that I made in Gemini into ChatGPT and we'll move it around. But in general, I wanted to share, again, before we get started, a couple quick suggestions or just how would you describe this? Like a checklist kind of a thing, or suggestions that you can put in if you are wanting to create an image, but you're wanting it to be a little bit more specific. Because a lot of us, it's like we see an image and you're like, oh, that's a dog playing in a yard. And it's like, no. In order to get what you really want out of these programs, sometimes if you put in that, you're like, oh, no, sorry. Like I need to put a Labrador playing in a backyard with a swing set on the right. Like that's what you need to do, is just to be really, really specific with this. So I made a list of some of the things to be really specific about and some suggestions that I have been using. So one, first off, is the aspect ratio. So if you want something to be a square, that's probably what it's going to come up with. That's what Midjourney is going to default to. That's sometimes what ChatGPT is going to default to, or a more horizontal image. But if you're like, no, I am painting on a canvas that is vertical, or I am painting a mural on a wall that is really long, you can put in what they call an aspect ratio. So in Midjourney, you have to do, I believe it's A:R, and then put in your numbers. So a number for an aspect ratio, if you want a square, it's okay. Aspect ratio is --AR 1:1. Sorry, on Midjourney. See, it's a little techie. Midjourney is a little techie. Whereas on ChatGPT or Gemini, after you've done explaining all the things that you want to explain, at the end, put aspect ratio 1:1. Okay, then you're going to get a square. And if you want the typical cinema TV, I looked this up, and it is aspect ratio 16:9. So colon, like the dot above each other, just saying, not semicolon. That's what it is. That's what you're watching TV at, is a 16:9. If you want something for a really long wall and it's more of like a panoramic view, always do the bigger number first. So say you want it to be a 4:1 ratio. So that would be like 1 inch high to 4 inches long, right? That would be 4:1. If you want it to be even longer, 5:1, shorter, 2:1, whatever, something like that. But I just want to say aspect ratio is what you need to change the size of the image to be exactly what you want. Okay, start that from the very beginning too, because if you spit out a really cool image that's a square, trying to recreate that in a really long image is sometimes kind of a pain. So what's really interesting though is now they've made it so good now that you can, even if you create a really good ratio, or if you create a really good image, you can say, great, change the aspect ratio to 1 or 1:1 or something like that, and it will adjust it for you. But I think it's better to just start at the ratio that you want. So other things to put in here is mood, style, any details, context. So context meaning this is going to be a YouTube thumbnail, or I want this to be an Instagram post, or this should fit the aspect ratio. That's also a detail. Or like say exactly what you're doing it for. I'm creating a mural, or I need to create, what I like to say is I create an illustration. So instead of creating some super realistic thing, I want it to look a little painted. So I'll tell it that and say, I want this to look like something painted on the wall. Or I will just say, I won't even say anything that's a mural or painted. I say, I want an illustration of this, to where it looks pretty realistic, but it still looks like a drawing, and maybe you could even see some paint marks on there. Something like that. The details matter, and I like to give a customer that type of rendering rather than giving them something that's ultra realistic, because then I feel like the results of the painting are a little bit less than a really, really realistic something. Okay. Another one is you can include brand colors. Did you know that? So if you have the hex colors of the branding of whatever business you're designing for, you can put those colors in and you can ask it to remember it. So you can ask it to, hey, these are so-and-so's brand colors, hex this, blah, 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 numbers. It will remember it and say, anytime that you are creating something for this company, you can say, use the hex colors for that company. It is so smart. Okay. Also put in what you do not want. Put in, I do not want a lamp in that room. I do not want I don't want carpet. I want tile flooring. I want, put in things that you don't want. That's something that Midjourney doesn't do well. You can't put in what you don't want. You only put in things that you want. Whereas Gemini and ChatGPT, you can put in things you don't want. By the way, another tip is whenever you're doing changes, highly suggest to do, I want this and this. I want you to change this in number format. Okay. So I've done this before incorrectly. That's how I know. And if you have an image there and you're like, oh no, I need to take out the lamp and I need to make the color of the carpet yellow and I need to add this, put it in number format. Say, these are the changes that I need made to that image. 1, this, 2, that. Because if you don't, it might merge them together because it's kind of like a run-on sentence. You're like, I want this and this and this and this. And it thinks that the lamp and the carpet should both be yellow, or it can kind of mix that up. So making it very point blank, like you're explaining it to a 3-year-old. I need you to do this. Go do that now. I need you to do that. Go do that now. Okay. All right. Let's get to it. I'm just going to show you some screen records of the ways that I have used these programs, and I'm just such a big advocate for it. So if you have any questions, let me know. And here we go. Okay, example number 1. This is in ChatGPT. This is actually the unpaid version. I was paying for Google Gemini I still am. And even the unpaid version is ChatGPT is still able to do what I wanted to do. So I asked it to create a messy kids room just to show you something of what maybe a customer might send me. And so a lot of the time there's things in front of the wall and obstructing the view, and there's just the things all around, and I just want to put a clean image on top of it. So I just asked ChatGPT, can you clean up the room and remove everything except the bed, side table, and bookshelf? So very specific. Remove everything from the room, clean it up except for these items. And man, did it do it. It looks so good, looks so clean, and you can do these with the customer images that they send you. If there's something in the way, you can just remove it just like that. I used to do this in Procreate and just create a really bad, if there's a car in the way, I just would try to erase it out by using the colors all around it, and it looked okay. But this is so much easier. And then there's this image, and I'll show you this image, kind of how I created it in a second, but it's an image of a carousel with pastel clouds all around it. And I created that using ChatGPT and Gemini and all the things earlier. And so I just uploaded that image into ChatGPT and said, add this image onto the wall like a mural. So if you create a mockup, you can just upload that photo into the same chat and say, add this image to the wall, and it does it so beautifully. So as you can see here, it adds it to that big blank wall. I actually tried doing this in Gemini with these exact same wording, and it tried to add it just all weird, and it tried to add it to the other parts of the walls, and the carousel wasn't centered, and I was like, this didn't do what I thought it would do. So I put the exact same thing into ChatGPT, and it worked just fine. So, and then as I go down here, how I mentioned earlier, things that if you want things changed, I just said, perfect. I just have a few changes. 1, make the bookshelf blue. 2, add a soccer ball on the floor. I was just trying to get it to do stuff. It doesn't really matter. I was just showing you how to do it. And so that's what it did. It did it so perfectly. I was like, dang, this makes my life so much easier. Okay, so now how did I create this image? So as you can see, in a separate channel, I just asked ChatGPT, I said, create a carousel in big fluffy pastel clouds, whimsical. And this is what it created. It's very kid-like, cute, whatever. So I did the exact same thing into Google Gemini, and you can always tell when it's a Google Gemini image. You see the star at the bottom right corner? That means it's a Gemini created image. So ChatGPT doesn't have that. It's kind of like a watermark that says, hey, Google created this. And Yeah, so I just have to remove that sometimes, or sometimes I'll just keep it up. It doesn't really matter. But it created a similar image, but different. And so is you can kind of see the difference between the two. Um, this one has kids on it, the other one doesn't. This one has fun, whimsical things inside of the clouds. Overall, same kind of color scheme, but it's just slightly different. And I think there's no better or worse in these two. I think it's just different. If anything, I might like the ChatGPT one better. It added a rainbow. Hmm. Yeah. And the other one's kind of more kid-like. Not always the same like that. Sometimes I like the Gemini one better, but they're both very similar. However, let me go over here and show you the one that Midjourney created. So same thing, carousel and big fluffy pastel clouds, whimsical. Man, you can just see. So it gives 4 different images of about the same kind of thing. And man, does it make just an overall, I think, better, more appealing, richer, more like it's more like an oil painting than like a kid's drawing thing. I'm just way more impressed with it than I am something like the other ones. So if I were to fine tune that one on Midjourney, I you can click whichever one it is. So whether it's like top right or bottom left, it starts at the top left, which is 1, top right is 2, bottom right is 3, bottom left is 3, bottom right is 4. So it shows 4 images and they're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. And so if I want to elaborate on any of those images, say I really like the shape or whatever it is of the bottom left, I'll go to V3 and it will create more versions of number 3. Okay. Or if I want to make that one bigger, I'll create U3 and it makes a more um, just more high resolution image. And then from there, I can go and up the creative. So click more creative and it will make a much higher resolution image than that even. So I've done this whenever I go do, like, if I want to like print something out, this can give me print quality. However, it says that ChatGPT, like reviews say that it can give you a high resolution PNG image or Gemini, but I haven't found that to be true. So if you know of a way to get really high resolution images out of ChatGPT or Gemini, let me know. The only way I found to do it is through Midjourney. I'm talking like to make like a 2-foot by 1-foot print or something like that. Like it's going to be pretty pixelated. Whereas with Midjourney, you can get a pretty fine-tuned image. So that's a big difference. So now let's look at another comparison. I just did this one for a job earlier today. Let's see the ChatGPT version. So I asked it to say the words best vacation ever in big, bold, blocked letters at the bottom with all of the Branson, Missouri attractions coming out from behind it. So this is for a customer who they want some kind of photo op, and I'm like trying to show Branson in the best way, like something that tourists will take pictures with. And maybe we're going to paint it or we're going to do a 3D something of it. But it came out with an image that like this, that where the font is slightly different colors, which I like, and then everything is just all around it. I asked it to be attractions coming out from behind it, and it put it kind of like all around it and below. So it wasn't exactly what I was thinking. I could probably refine this to make it better. Overall, I like it, but I'm going to show you what Gemini created. And this is actually more towards what I was going for. So it's going to be heavy at the bottom with letters and then more imagery basically coming out from behind it, which is exactly what it did. It was same thing, kind of different. And I actually just sent this image to my customer today and said, hey, this is where I think we should go with it. We can change the attractions, but do you like this idea? And they just responded. So I want to show you what Midjourney does as well. It did not understand where Branson, Missouri was. So it has like an Eiffel Tower and it looks just like it's not Branson, Missouri. So it did not convey the ideas of it being like that location. And I don't recognize any of the things around it. However, it is a better artistic image. It gives me 4 different options, and all of those options are really interesting in a way that the lettering is more intricate. It's just better. So I'm going to take that lettering likely and use it into one of the other ones, likely Gemini, but I like to have the option of ChatGPT as well. So it's using all of these tools to help just like get idea generation. And then I create from that. And like I could even put one of these images into like one of the Midjourney images that I like, put that into ChatGPT and say, add Branson, Missouri attractions behind this lettering. And it would do that. So one way to use it to collaborate, and I'm all for it. Plus, especially if you can get the free version of ChatGPT and Gemini, and then just maybe pay for Midjourney, I think it's worth it to like that. All right, now I'm going to show you inside of Google Gemini how I'm creating my tarot cards. So I've tried this inside of ChatGPT. It did not work out as well. Midjourney did not work out as well. Midjourney would be cool for creating a first image, but these inside of Gemini is the best one that I've found that can copy exact style and then make a new version, but with the same style. So for instance, I put the strength card in there, which is a woman next to a lion, and it has a very ornate detail around the edges. And it's just it's like, this is the style that I want. It needs to be the same size. It needs to be the same thing, but a different tarot card. So I put that inside of here after I've made it elsewhere. And I just started a new chat and said, can you make the Fool with it, which is the first tarot card in the deck, with this style and border? So I want this style and border, but I want the Fool tarot card. And it made one. And I was like, it's close. It has the same border. It has the same style. But for some reason it's like the colors were slightly off. So I just told it, no, make it with the same style as the strength card. So I just corrected it and it did it pretty well. I just said, it did it slightly differently and I liked it better. And I just said, take out the white. And this is what it came up with. It's really cool. And then I said, can you replace the dog with a cat? So it has a dog in there. I don't want a dog in there. It's my tarot deck. I can do whatever I want. And so I had to add a cat instead of a dog, which is the traditional way of doing it. And then after that, I was like, okay, great. This is great. So I saved it and then said, can you make the Magician, which is another card in the deck? And then it made it, and it made it be a male. So I just said, can you make it female? And it made her female. And that's what it looks like. Notice it has the exact same style and border as the original one. So I don't have to go in through and make all this, make it try to match it exactly. It does that for me. And then I take that into Procreate and I add some stuff into it. And I add wording and descriptions and all of that on each one. And so I make it my own in a way, but yeah, it matches the style of it, which is so great. And then I said, can you make the High Priestess? And it does it. And I just keep going with it. I said, can you make the Empress? And then it makes her, but then it starts to deviate from the style a little bit. So I just upload the strength card again and say, can you match this style? And it does. It's like sometimes you have to remind it like, hey, no, you're going off into this direction. I need you to match this style as you go back to it. And that's what we did. And we just kept going. And yeah. So that's how I make the tarot cards. I actually will use some prompts to where I'm like, make it a little bit more magical, and it'll add some magic to it. It adds some like glowiness and stars, and it's really fun to just take this image and then keep playing with it. And it's technically making it my own, but I didn't create it fully, but it's really great to have the same style just to keep going with that. So yeah, Google Gemini will match the style and keep going if you're wanting to make something similar to a tarot card deck. I tried this with ChatGPT and it wanted to ask me so many questions and then just never generated the image correctly. And I was like, okay. But Google Gemini, it just gets it. I don't know what it is about it, but for this, it just gets it. And I don't have to tell it each little thing of like what the Empress is supposed to look like. Like, what is that? Like, it gets that I'm going off of the traditional style of tarot, and it knows what that is without me having to prompt it. I just say, make the next one, and it does it. So basically, make the Empress, and it does it, which I really like. It's just very little on my part. But if I wanted to add something, like actually I changed her shield color and everything to be the symbol of the Venus, because I read more into it. And yeah, so that I changed that, and you just keep changing things into it. But yeah, this is how I'm making that, and feel free to make it your own. And this is just so much easier than having to do them all by myself. I get to learn the tarot deck and create these flashcards style things. I add words and descriptions to it in Procreate, and then I'm making a whole deck. And a lot more people do this than you realize. So this is the trick to it. Okay, now we're into ChatGPT, and I used this to create a mural image for an art call that I applied for. So this was actually pretty recently, about 2 weeks ago is when I did this. And I found this image online. It's of a big maroon wall with flowers and leaves and everything in front of it. And I was like, oh, that is the style of mural that I really want to paint. And so I uploaded that into ChatGPT and said, can you make this mural have Missouri native flowers plus a couple roses and lilies? Popped out. Yep, it created it for me. It made her just a whole bunch of other flowers. And then I said, can you take out a couple of the small flowers and add a peony? And it did that. So just refining. And then I uploaded the photo that the committee gave us that the image is going to go on. So the mural, the wall that our murals are going to be painted on. And so I just uploaded that into ChatGPT and said, perfect, can you make the mural on this wall? It would have the background be black instead of maroon. And it did that. So it basically pasted my new mural design based on the other mural. But by now, it looks so unrecognizable to the other one. I wouldn't even say that there are any flowers that are the same on it. I just used the style of the mural, changed it completely to all different flowers, all like it wouldn't even be recognizable to it, which I think is a really, really important part that I'm going to mention, because I can just feel some of you out there being like, you uploaded somebody else's art trying to copy it. And it's like, no, no, no. I like the style. Liking a style is okay. And I'm completely changing it to where nobody could say that's the same mural. Like literally nobody. No flowers are the same, no nothing. And it's going to be painted very differently. But I really loved it. And I think it's a good starting point. So it added it on there without me having to do anything. It was so great. And then so I just did little things like the pink roses were really, really big. So I was like, can you make the pink roses a bit smaller? And it did that. I tried to do this into Google Gemini, and it had a little bit of trouble with that. I think especially I said, move the peony over to the left a little. It had a lot of trouble with doing that. But ChatGPT does that just fine, and I'm able to create this. So let's see, I also said add a few wild Missouri roses. It made them pink. It wasn't supposed to be pink. So I said make the Missouri roses white, which are like the wild roses don't look like real roses, like the normal standard ones. And so I was really impressed that it got that right. And so it added there. And so this is the image. I actually put that image into Procreate, and I put some lettering on top of it that the art call was calling for. And I just did it in 2 separate ways. So I added lettering via Procreate just on the upper left side. That was super minimal, added what they wanted in there. Something about like the city in bloom. And then I did a second one where I did cursive lettering all throughout the middle, and like flowers were coming over it. And it was like very much heavy lettering and flowers into the mural. So it's not a completely made AI image that I gave them. It was part me physically adding things digitally anyway, and to make it my own. So that is how I do that. So instead of trying to draw this up by hand or just having really bad pasted photos in there, I think this is a better way to do it. And some art calls are not allowing AI images in there, but the ones that are basically the ones that don't say that you can't have it. I highly recommend you doing it. If this is something that you can physically paint, I think that's a big thing in there, a big part of this. If this is something that you can actually deliver, then feel free to put it in there. Sometimes I'll even take this image that looks pretty realistic and I'll say, make it look a little bit more painted or a little bit more illustrated. That way it really for lack of a better term, dumbs it down or makes it less realistic and just more painted. So that way it's going to actually look like what you can do. So we don't want to do false advertising. We just want to make the workflow easier to apply for stuff like this. Because I don't know if I'm going to get this. Like there's I don't know, 50% chance at best that I do this or that I actually get a call for this. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on a project that I don't know if I'm going to get. So I think this is a really good happy medium. I'm really impressed with it. I hope they will be. And that's what I did. So let me know if you have any questions. All right, now I want to bring you into Midjourney. I bet you could do something similar with ChatGPT and Gemini. I'm sure that they would create equally as good coloring book pages as Midjourney does, but I wanted to show you what the options were in Midjourney and how I talk to it. And so this one is, I wanted to create a jar full of candy hearts, simple coloring book page. And it gives me 4 different options and I choose from one. And I just go from there. And so I'll choose that one. And then I chose like this one which has a bunch of hearts in a jar. And then I just click Upscale Creative. And that Upscale Creative button is the one that will make it more high resolution. So that way I can just print it out and it goes into a coloring book page. And so it doesn't have that less than high resolution that I'm getting from ChatGPT and Gemini. Like it's okay, but Midjourney's is better. Like the lines are just crisper and you would never know. I created both of my coloring book pages and books like this and you just wouldn't know. So I take that image and I put it into Procreate and I edit it just a little bit. But in general, after you click Upscale Creative, that's the one that makes it more high resolution. So I'm just going to scroll through here and show you a couple of the ones so you can see my prompts. But most of them are like simple coloring book page. If you don't put simple or you don't put clean, simple lines in it, then it might come out with all the crazy stuff. So yeah, most of them are just simple coloring book pages like ducks on a pond, comma, cute, comma, simple coloring book page. So I think adding the word cute helps it to just be visually appealing. Another one, cute rabbits watching fireworks, simple coloring book page. Yeah, I really like Midjourney because as you can see right here, it gives you 4 different choices in this thing, whereas you get 1 in Gemini and ChatGPT. So if you're looking at something where you're really trying to get I don't know, it gives you more options. And so it kind of helps you to know where you need to be more creative in your language. It's like, oh yeah, this can go so many different ways with the exact same prompt. And so it gives you more visual options rather than being like, okay, wait, how do I say this better? It just gives you more. All right, last one. So I uploaded my Roger the raccoon that I have created on my own. And I do images of him all around town. And I was so excited to hear to finally see that I could create different Rogers, the different raccoons of the same style doing different things on ChatGPT. So I uploaded the picture of my standard Roger the raccoon and said, can you make this raccoon be running with his arms bent and its tail behind him in the wind? And it made his arms a little weird, and it made his eyes a little doe-eyed, but overall, I like it. And it made him running, his tail is definitely in the wind, and he looks like he's just an excited little toddler or something. I don't know, but it's so cute. But I've been having a really rough time lately with image, like creating a character of my own and then making them do certain things, like getting their body to look differently, making their head turn. And this helps a ton. It doesn't get it exact, but I feel like with just a couple tweaks, it gets the bulk of it. And so I just tried it again. I was like, make his arms more against his body, like his running. And that didn't really work. So I was like, whatever, I can change that later. So I was like, can you make him jumping in the air with his arms up? And they did it. He looks so cute. And then can you make him looking up, which is a really big thing, like making a character on your own and then making their head turn is so difficult. It just is. And especially for me, I am not an illustrator. And so making that was really tough. So I'm so excited that I have unlocked this feature. That way it can just help me figure out just how the same character can move. So I feel like this is going to be a huge breakthrough for people who write books or illustrate books, or people who write books and they can illustrate their own book. Things like that with just ChatGPT prompts like this. And so yeah, and then I asked it to, can you make his arms like stretched out to the sides, and look how cute he is. This is so cute. And I created a zebra character, and I actually stopped the process of illustrating him because it took so long for me to just figure out a different way for him to put his head. So I'm going to pick this back up probably in the winter and use this same for my zebra character and finally fully illustrate my own book. And I'm so excited about it. So that was my last tip on here. There is so many more, but I just wanted to show you the ways that I mainly use it. There's so many more, but if you need help with this, please let me know. And if you discover any new discovery on here, please post it in our Arts Academy Facebook group. We would love to know of it. Actually, the first tip that I showed you with the cleaning up the room thing, my friend Michael, who's in the Arts Academy, showed me how to do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so neat. Like, I think just all of us working together helps to pass around how we can use AI in a really positive way and not copy one another, not like, I don't know, but use it to help us create more art in the world, because that's what the world needs. It's just more art and more art in the way that you can create art and the style that you like and the stuff that makes people happy. Because look how happy this raccoon is right now. So that's my soapbox on AI. Use it how you see fit, and let me know how it goes. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much.